Welcome to the Immigration Report. There's a lot that we need to talk about today. Is the Trump administration retreating from Minneapolis because Tom Homan, the border czar, just announced that they'll be pulling out massive amounts of federal agents from Minneapolis? Also, the immigration fight on Capitol Hill is heating up over the funding of DHS and ICE. And Congress just moved to outlaw Sharia law inside the United States, and a lot more that we're going to talk about throughout this video. And if you want daily immigration updates without the bias, without the agenda, please consider subscribing. Let us get into it, starting with this update from Tom Homan.
In Minnesota, unrest continues as federal ICE officers crack down on illegal immigration. Just this morning, border czar Tom Homan holding a press conference from Minneapolis saying he is now pulling back 700 federal officers.
Given this increase in unprecedented collaboration, and as a result of the need for less law enforcement officers to do this work in a safer environment, I have announced effective immediately, we will draw down 700 people effective today.
So this move by Tom Homan and the Trump administration comes as a surprise to a lot of people, considering the fact that a week or so, they were saying they're not going to pull back, there's not going to be a drawdown, that they'll continue with their operations. Now, this comes as a surprise because now they're saying what they're saying, they're going to pull back 700 agents from out of Minneapolis. And here's Tom Homan essentially speaking more on that matter.
My goal with the support of President Trump is to achieve a complete drawdown and end this surge as soon as we can. But that is largely contingent upon the end of the illegal and threatening activities against ICE and its federal partners that we're seeing in the community. We will not draw down on personnel providing security for our officers. I will not let our officers be put at risk. So we will not draw down on personnel providing security and responding to hostile incidents until we see a change and what's happening with the lawlessness of the impeding and interfering and assaulting of ICE and border officers.
So as you can see, they're not pulling out every agent out of Minneapolis because initially, remember, they sent 2,000 agents and they sent another 1,000 agents to a total of about 3,000 federal agents in Minneapolis. Now they're pulling out 700, which brings the total down to around 2,300 agents in Minneapolis still conducting operations. So relatively, there's still a lot of agents there. And what they demanded at first is for local authorities to cooperate with ICE in terms of the undocumented illegal aliens, criminals within jails, to hand those over to ICE. And initially, at the start of the speech, that's what Tom Homan said. He said they were starting to cooperate, which is why they're doing this pullback, they're doing this drawdown, but they're not pulling back everyone because they still need to make sure their agents are safe when they're conducting these operations. And now Tom Homan is essentially making clear that they will not draw down, they'll not do a complete withdrawal until assault against federal law enforcement ceases. And one of the main reasons why people are questioning this move by Tom Homan and the Trump administration is because yesterday Tim Walz did a press conference and demanded that ICE withdraw all their agents from Minneapolis. So it kind of shows that Tom Homan and the Trump administration are giving in to those demands. And here's Tim Walz.
It's been a week since I met with Tom Homan. Expectations have not changed. This force must leave Minnesota. The state of Minnesota and the professionals, nonpartisan judiciary, must do the investigations into the shootings and other abuses of Minnesota's human rights. And this all-out assault on Minnesota across all of state government and all across life must stop. None of this is normal. None of this is okay. None of this makes Minnesota any safer. None of this adheres to the values of this country. All it does is cause terror and trauma.
And that was Tim Walz, the governor of Minnesota, demanding that ICE do a complete withdrawal. And we have this video coming out of Minneapolis where federal agents were verbally assaulted by activists, by agitators. This black federal agent, he was going about his business, and now these individuals that claim that they're not racist or anything like that start calling them the N-word. Let us take a look.
That kind of energy, like we should rip people apart from their families.
Are you a man?
Wow. Wow, is that a question?
Wow.
Okay. How do you feel about ripping people from their families? Does that feel good?
Fucking house nigga in here. Sir, I need to move. Fucking house nigga, where's you put the fucking KKK?
What the fuck's wrong with you people? Why are you calling a woman a man?
Sir,
I mean, what kind of a guy does that?
Squeeze fucking house
Fucking neighbor.
Go look for your fucking slave.
Yeah, that is very disgusting considering the fact that these individuals, they're out there protesting. They're saying ICE is racist. They're calling ICE. They're calling them a whole bunch of names. They're liking them to the Nazi. They're liking them to Gestapo. But they're the ones that's out there essentially because they disagree with this individual. Why does it have to be about race? Why can it not be a federal agent conducting his job? It just doesn't make sense, which is why you have to question the sanity of a lot of these people that you see out there protesting and causing agitation. And yesterday I spoke about this community that was setting up roadblocks, that was setting up checkpoints in Minneapolis. Here's a reminder. So those were activists / protesters that were setting up checkpoints, checking people's IDs, making sure they're not ICE or anything like that. And fortunately, the local police went in and cleared that out. Let's take a look.
That's not your fucking chair, man.
Now, this is good news to see that the local authorities, the local government is actually looking out for their citizens and not letting activists or rioters or agitators taking over the streets and running the streets like we're living in a third world country. So that is good. That is good to see. So now let us move on to our next story, which takes us to Capitol Hill. So if you didn't know, the government was actually shut down. And yesterday, the House passed a bill and the president signed that bill to end that government shutdown. But the thing is, the fight is not over because the debate is still over the funding of DHS and the funding of ICE. Because within that bill to fund the government, DHS and ICE is only funded for 10 days. Let us take a look at this reporting.
Trump signed a new funding bill today, ending the partial government shutdown. And as Erica Brown reports, the spending deal now means that the clock is ticking toward another funding deadline, specifically for the Department of Homeland Security.
Without objection, the motion is adopted.
By a vote of 217 to 214, the House narrowly passed a funding bill to end the partial government shutdown Tuesday.
I'm happy to report Republicans got the job done. Our majority worked together, and we got the bills over the line.
The legislation includes 5 full-year spending bills and only a temporary funding extension for the Department of Homeland Security, as Democrats demand reforms to immigration enforcement policies following federal agents fatally shooting 2 Minneapolis residents.
Body cameras must be required by law, and masks must come off. Judicial warrants are a requirement, not a suggestion.
President Trump signed the legislation shortly after it passed.
So even though the government shutdown has ended, this thing is far from over because Congress still needs to work out a deal for DHS. Because the Democrats, they're threatening to reform ICE. They're threatening to defund ICE, even though we know that ICE has been funded through 2029. So is it wise for them to choose this fight? Because it's not only ICE who's affected by a lack of funding for DHS. You still have agencies like TSA, FEMA, Secret Service, and the Coast Guard. So it is not a wise idea for them to choose this fight because we know ICE has been funded through 2029. And you got to remember that initially the Democrats, they made 3 demands if they were to fund DHS and fund ICE. But now they're shifting that goalpost because initially they demanded that all agents would take off their masks, which is not possible considering the fact that their families are being stalked. The second demand was for ICE to end the roving patrol, and now we see that ICE, they're doing more targeted operations. And the third demand was that for agents to be wearing body cameras. And now we see that the Department of Homeland Security about to issue body cameras to all ICE and Border Patrol agents. Now the Democrats, they're shifting the goalposts. Now they're making other demands. One of those demands is that agents need to get a warrant if they are to arrest someone. And here the president was asked about that in the Oval Office. Let us take a look.
Are you open to negotiating on warrants when it comes to ICE? This is an ask from Senator Schumer. Requiring search warrants for ICE and immigration officials.
I haven't even thought of it. I'm not thinking about search warrants. Yeah, Lindsey Graham is going to answer that.
No, makes no sense. If we have to get a search warrant to get 15 million people out, Schumer's telling me he doesn't want them out. It's the most ridiculous idea. They do have some good ideas, I think. But I've got a better idea. It's your idea. In sanctuary cities. On immigration, I know what I'm talking about. I've got the scars to prove it. Y'all are playing like Biden didn't exist. Y'all won't tell the American people about Lake and Riley. It's a one-sided debate. For 4 years, our border was obliterated. They let them come in by the tens of millions, and they want to go back that way. We're not going. So, Mr. President, stick to your guns. If you got reforms that make ICE better, more professional, talk to me. But you should embrace what I'm suggesting. As long as 12 states have sanctuary policy, they'll keep coming. Unfortunately, you won't be president forever. These magnets of illegal immigration have to go. There is no upside to sanctuary city unless you're a complete radical nut job. The cops hate it, fraud around sanctuary cities, and you're going to get more illegal immigration. We'll have a debate.
And what we have to keep in mind is that the Immigration and Nationality Act of 1952 actually gives ICE the authority to arrest someone without a warrant. One of two criteria must be met. The first one is that if an illegal immigrant is likely to flee. So if ICE knows that that person is illegal, let's say they're in their home or whatever, and they have reason to believe by the time they're supposed to get a judicial warrant, that person will flee, then ICE can go in and arrest that person. The second criteria is that if that person, that undocumented individual, is in the country illegally, then ICE can go and arrest that individual without a judicial warrant. And take a look at this reporting.
Ravi, Judy, this is an issue the I-Team has been following since the start of Operation Midway Blitz. Immigrant advocates arguing arrests without a warrant are not allowed under a current consent decree. But a new memo from ICE gives agents broad authority to arrest those they believe are undocumented without any warrant. The memo, issued just days ago from Acting ICE Director Todd Lyons and reviewed by the ABC 7 I-Team, states that a two-part assessment must be made of anyone encountered by immigration authorities during a targeted arrest. Are they undocumented, and are they likely to escape? If the answer is yes, and an officer, quote, feels, unquote, a subject is likely to escape, they may be arrested without a warrant at all.
The net effect is we're likely to see more warrantless arrests.
ABC 7 Chief Legal Analyst Gil Sofer says the memo marks another major departure from immigration enforcement norms, lowering the bar for arrests. It noted that until now, immigration authorities would have to determine if a subject was a flight risk, not just likely to escape the vicinity of an encounter.
A flight risk requires an agent to assess what will happen down the road after this immigrant is arrested, detained, fingerprinted, and it requires asking difficult questions like, will he show up for future hearings? Whereas likelihood of escape is simply that. Is he going to be here in an hour?
And there you have it. In order for ICE to arrest someone, one of two criteria must be met. Are they likely to flee, and are they in the country illegally? And here's Chuck Schumer, who's a Democrat in the Senate, on the issue of immigration in 1993. Let's take a listen.
There's a need to keep the doors open for people who legitimately deserve asylum, but that the abuses are so large that unless you undergo major changes, you're not going to be able to sustain it. Someone's in the country illegally. After 6 months of tracking them down, the INS catches up to them, and all of a sudden that person says asylum and gets another 2 years to go through this. That has not been addressed here, and I think that's a major problem. Also, the many levels of appeal that have been built into the process that make it so long and time-consuming that it becomes ridiculous. Our immigration policies are a shambles, plain and simple.
And that was Chuck Schumer in 1993. It is crazy how the tables have turned. Take a look at his message today in regards to immigration.
Now more than ever, we're short of workers. We have a population that is not reproducing it on its own with the same level that it used to. The only way we're going to have a great future in America is if we welcome and embrace immigrants, the dreamers, and all of them, because our ultimate goal is to help the dreamers, but get a path to citizenship for all 11 million or however many undocumented there are here.
So as you can see, over the years, Chuck Schumer has become more pro-illegal immigration. And let me know in the comments why you think that is. And this is Mike Johnson, the Speaker of the House, responding to Chuck Schumer's call for mass amnesty.
We have to make sure we maintain the important parameters here. We can't go down the road of amnesty. You can't, in any way, lighten the enforcement requirement of federal immigration law. That's what the American people demand and deserve. We want dangerous illegal criminals to be sent out of the country, and they've been very successful at that. But
that was the Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, essentially saying he will not support that. He will not support a move by the Democrats to give everyone in this country that's illegal, that's here undocumented, mass amnesty, where they essentially make everyone a citizen. Now, let us move on to our next story, where a group of congressmen, they're forming this caucus, which is called the Sharia-Free Caucus, to fight against Islamist Sharia law. Let us take a look at this reporting.
On Capitol Hill, a number of House Republicans are uniting against Islamic ideology that's spreading nationwide, and it's the spread of Sharia law.
Yes, and this has become a critical issue for one congressman. Texas Representative Keith Self spoke with CBN Capitol Hill correspondent Michelle London about the Sharia-Free America Caucus.
North Texas has had like 20 mosques in the last 2 years.
Congressman Self draws a direct connection between a growing Muslim population in his home state to a gradual infiltration of Islamic control.
First of all, it would be simply, we want a community. Then the police can't come in. And the contracts, the covenants of the area say that you may buy if you're the right kind of person. You may sell to the right kind of person.
The Texas Republicans' crucial issue, the spread of Muslim Sharia law. Described as a framework of daily life for Muslims, Sharia is rooted in the Quran and the teachings of the Prophet Muhammad. It influences each aspect of a Muslim's life, from spiritual practices like prayer and fasting.
So as you can see, this caucus, this move is to combat Sharia law throughout the United States, because they're arguing that it's not compatible with Western values, with Western laws. And this is one of the members of that caucus, Congressman Brandon Gill, and here's what he has to say.
Why are we seeing terrorist attacks from radical Islam within our own borders? Where did this come from? Islam is largely alien to American history. It certainly didn't come into the United States on the Mayflower. It's something that we deliberately imported as a matter of immigration policy into our country. And it's going to destroy us just like it's destroying Europe right now. It's our job to stand up to that, to stand up for our values and to prohibit alien cultures and alien ideologies that do not comport with our own government governing framework. And that's why I'm proud to be part of the Sharia-Free America Caucus.
So that was Brandon Gill, and here's Chip Roy. Chip Roy is out of Texas. He's one of the original architects of this, and this is what he has to say.
I am proud to be with this group of Americans, of colleagues, many of whom wore the uniform in defense of our nation, and in defense of our nation against radical Islamic terrorists who wanted to destroy our country and destroy what we know about Western civilization. And now that same war is being conducted against us, but from within. And anybody who's actually paying attention to this and understands the intentions of the Muslim Brotherhood and follows and looks at the writings and what these folks are talking about, Dallas, Houston, Texas is ground zero. That's why Keith Self and I joined together to create this Sharia-Free Caucus, Sharia-Free America Caucus, because we understand that the root strength of this country is our Judeo-Christian principles and the values of Western civilization that have advanced the cause of liberty, freedom, and prosperity for people around the world. And our ancestors bled and died so that we could live in a country like this. And you can believe whatever you want, but you cannot engage in what is a political effort to Islamify the United States of America.
And that was Chip Roy. He's fighting against the Islamification of America. Let me know what you think in the comments. Do you agree with him? Do you disagree with him? That brings us to the end of today's Immigration Report. Thank you for watching all the way to the end. If you don't mind commenting, sharing, subscribing, I'd really appreciate it. Thank you.